Hello and welcome. This video is a short introduction about how you can configure the mail flow simulation functionality within OfficeExpert. So let's start with a more theoretical slide here before we deep dive into the configuration itself. What you have here is the depiction of how a mail flow simulation basically works. So you have always a starting point, which is in that case an on-prem Exchange server, and a recipient destination side, which is in that case a cloud account inside of Office 365. So that's one mail flow configuration I have here, for instance. And then I have, or may have, a second one where the starting point is the cloud and the recipient or the destination is any SMTP server which I have on-prem. You can configure as many mail flow simulations as you like, so there is no limitations. So if you want to measure the mail flow between two on-prem servers or between your Office 365 world and Google Cloud, then you basically can do that. How does it work? So OfficeExpert triggers, based on the configuration, an email on this SMTP server as a starting point. And this email is being then delivered to the recipient you configure, which is in that case a cloud account for this first mail flow simulation here. And OfficeExpert measures how long it takes for sending the mail from A to B. If the mail does not show up in a particular period of time, then the mail cycle is stopped and a new one will be triggered by OfficeExpert. So this is basically the idea how a simple mail flow simulation works. So we measure how reliable is the mail flow between two mail systems. The real important piece information here is that it doesn't matter what SMTP system you use as a starting point, you can use any SMTP system. And as a recipient, you can use any IMAP-enabled mailbox. So there is no limitation that this works only for Office 365 or only for Google Cloud. So basically there is no one. So you can use the mail flow simulation globally in a more broader aspect. So let's have a look in how does the configuration looks like. So I have opened up here, for instance, the mail flow simulation page, which you can access by clicking on settings and simulations. It will open up here the simulation page where you have Azure Sync Simulation as one tab and the second one is mail flow simulation. And currently I have here configured 6 different simulations where only 2 of them are active. So if I select the first one, I have basically the configuration items I need to configure. So first of all, you need to configure, or you need to specify name, and then you specify the SMTP sender information. So what is the starting SMTP server, what type of sender address is being used or should be used, is authentication necessary, etc. And yeah, that's it when it comes to sending an email basically. And then you have this IMAP recipient configuration where you specify more or less the destination, the recipient. So you specify the server address where the IMAP-enabled mailbox is located, and you specify also the recipient address followed by a password if you need to authenticate with it. So basically 2 simple configuration items. And then you have at the bottom these task settings, and task settings is pretty much easy to understand. So basically there is an interval called 5 minutes. You can change this to any interval you like. So every 5 minutes a new mail cycle is being triggered. So a new email is being sent from this starting server. As a mail cycle timeout, for instance, if I use 10 minutes, then a mail cycle will automatically time out after 10 minutes. So if the mail is not being delivered within 10 minutes, then it's not a successful one, basically. And with max number of checks, what it's meant with 2 here or any number here, it means that based on this configuration, he will check within those 10 minutes the recipient mailbox 2 times. So you have here tooltip information, for instance, which explains you exactly the same stuff. So if you would increase this to 10, then it would mean that every single minute he would, inside of this 10 minutes time period or timeout period, he will check the recipient database. So if you increase this to a higher number, then OfficeExpert more often checks the recipient. If you say just 1, then he would check only once after 10 minutes, basically the recipient mailbox. So it's basically a simple configuration. So whenever you have done that, you simply save it. And if you switch over then to the mail flow page where you see all the results, you can select then exactly the item, the information, so all the historical time series. So and you can even compare it with different mail flows if you like. So like in that case, the first graph is the Office 365 mail flow and the other one is the Google one. And what you would see here, for instance, that from time to time you have here big events where the delivery takes more than just a second or 2 seconds or whatever. I have to notice, or have to mention here, that the timing information on the Google server is a bit strange, because the quickest measurement was calculated by minus 287 milliseconds, so it's quicker than light basically, but of course this cannot be true. So the Google time information is not really reliable, it looks like. So therefore, if you just take the example here for Office 365 here, then you get a better picture that it usually takes a couple of seconds until the recipient gets the mail delivered. So 3 seconds on average. And yeah, you get a good understanding if there are error messages. So for instance, if the mail has not been delivered within a certain amount of time. So this is basically what you get then available in this mail flow page. So configuration and the depiction of mail flows is pretty cool. Thank you.